On today's Tuesday Talk, we are answering a bunch of questions from viewers having to do with pets, specifically dogs. Most of them were small enough questions that I thought we should just group all of these together. You can hear Penny shaking in the background.
Every time.
Okay, so let's go through a few of these. One person asked, dog, good companion, good lookout, but is it worth the hassle?
That's all going to depend on your traveling lifestyle. I will say that a lot of people have dogs.
Yes.
So many people travel with pets in general, but those pets are generally dogs.
Yes.
We do see cats, but dogs are just so common. So I don't think you'll have a problem necessarily finding campgrounds that will accept them. We never really ran into much of that. There are some areas in the Northeast where only certain pets in certain areas of the campground and stupid stuff like that. But
and some states where only
part,
certain breeds can be.
Yeah,
so there are breed restrictions.
For the most part, the logistics, that's not really a problem. It just comes down to whether you think it's important enough.
Yeah.
And there's no way we'll be able to answer that for you. But for us, it happens to be.
Well, what we've said in the past, and I still stick by this, is we love our pups. We had them before we started camping. Therefore, we brought them with us. We weren't going to get rid of them when we started camping. If we did not have dogs, we would probably not get one. Because it is more of a hassle to have one than the lookout safety aspect is a plus.
Our dogs are good dogs. They don't generally bark and make a hassle, but we can't be gone for more than like 8 or 9 hours max.
Yeah.
And sometimes that affects what we do.
Yeah, and you have to worry about temperatures a lot more and things like that. So it does limit you, but for us it's totally worth it because we love our pups. So someone asked, what special considerations, accommodations do you make when leaving them in your camper while you are away and out on activities without them? Like Steve said, we're lucky. Our dogs are great. They don't have separation anxiety. They hang out together. They're decently quiet in the Airstream. If the campground is loud or there's a lot of activity around and we're worried they're going to bark, we will actually leave the fan running, either the Fantastic fans if we're boondocking or the fan in our AC heat pump.
Just for noise.
Just for noise sake. And that tends to be enough to drown out the most of the noise, and they can just be quiet and resting inside. Obviously, you need to worry about temperatures, either leaving windows open if boondocking with fans going, or making sure that the AC is going to run and that you know it's going to run, because that can be a problem. Sometimes there are power outages, and so we've talked about some of this stuff before. There are pet monitoring systems. We don't currently use a pet monitoring system, though we do use a temperature monitoring system when we have power for this year. We may have to change that or figure something out when we start boondocking a lot again and we're running off our batteries. But for now, we do have a way to monitor the temperature at least.
We do.
Other than that, make sure they have plenty of water, make sure they have plenty of food. And then that we have a little emergency sign on the door or on the window by the door saying that we have 2 pets with an emergency number. So if anything were to happen, someone could call us because they know our pets are inside. So I think those are all the special considerations.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we don't leave them in crates. We don't have to drug them up. We don't have to do anything like that. A lot of people have, if your dog has separation anxiety, that might be something you have to do. But our dogs are much, much happier by themselves in the Airstream than going wherever we are going. Would be interested to get your thoughts on animal protocol and supplies. Protocol is a big one in campgrounds.
Yeah, protocol is a big one, especially when it comes to dogs that are roaming around off leash because the owner thinks that their dog is nice.
That's great.
And for the most part, I mean that's not the problem. The nice dog is not the problem. It's the other dogs and how they interact.
Yeah.
That is the problem. Now, I can't say that we've never had the dogs outside our campground off leash. That does happen, especially during happy hours. Our dogs are they are more afraid of everybody else than they are of them. And if we do see a dog in the area, we will just put the dogs back inside. So there's not a chance of an encounter.
No.
But that's for the most part, it's just whether your dog is on leash or off leash, and how loud and aggressive they happen to be.
Yeah. So like we've said in the past, what he was saying with a nice dog is great, except when you have a dog that doesn't do well with other dogs, which is our Penny, and she'll be on a leash, and if a nice dog comes running up to her and gets in her face, even if it's just being friendly, Penny's not cool with that, and she can't get away, and it can cause an incident. And so dogs off leash can be a very big problem.
Especially if your dog likes to go up to
other dogs.
If they'll stay right by you, it's really not, 9 times out of 10 it won't be an issue.
Yeah,
it's but only if your dog likes to greet other dogs, that is a recipe for disaster, because that dog is going to go to some other dog who doesn't want them there, and then there's going to be an issue.
Exactly. Other protocol issues, noise. So like we said, if we think the dogs might be noisy, we try to leave some kind of noise going in the airstream so that they won't bark, because everyone outside won't hear the fans, but they will hear the barking dogs. So try to make sure, that's usually a protocol thing. Campgrounds don't want lots of barking dogs, either in the rig or especially outside the rig. Most campgrounds don't allow you to leave your dogs outside when you're not there, though we have seen that in the past.
And it goes without saying, but pick up after. I mean, there's so much dog poop out there that owners don't pick up. I don't know. Pick up after your dog.
Yeah.
As much as you possibly can. Especially when you're in a campground.
Yeah.
But like walking trails, whatever, just be a respectful dog owner and pick up after your dog.
Otherwise, it'll be your shoe that at some point.
Or somebody else's. Usually it's somebody else's.
Well, eventually, hopefully karma comes back. But speaking of which, not all campgrounds provide bags to pick up after your dogs.
Most don't.
Make sure to keep a good supply on hand. We get some eco-friendly, biodegradable bags from Amazon and make sure to have a big box all the time. I think they're in our store, so I'll be sure to put the link up above.
Yeah.
And I think our last question having to do with dogs was, what do you do when your dogs get sick? Vets on the road.
We had this problem once. Penny wasn't sick, but she chipped a nail. And she tipped it in the point where her nerve was very much in play, so we didn't feel comfortable cutting the nail off, which is what you had to do. So we happened to be in the area where there was a vet about 40 minutes away. This was in California. There's a video about that. And we took her in, and everything was fine. But if there wasn't a vet nearby, we may have been driving a couple hours.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you just can't.
Do you remember? There wasn't a vet nearby. It happened at our first campground. It was going to be a moving day that day anyway. And there was a vet 40 minutes from our next location. And so that is what we did, is we actually packed up early, moved early, got to our new location, set up.
There you go.
And then went the 40 minutes to take Penny to the emergency vet. And that was just some small town vet. We keep the dog's records at PetSmart. Patty gets groomed there, and they have a vet, the Banfield Vet service. And so that is where we'll take them to get their rabies shots, anything like normal. Or if we're anywhere near one, that is probably where we take them first, because they have all their records.
Probably, yeah.
Even that is not everywhere, as we were just saying. So knowing where an emergency vet is an important thing to keep in mind when you're camping, especially if you're going to be someplace for a while.
Yeah, and especially if your dog is out roaming around like ours like to do, they could get themselves into, like, step on something, or things happen when you're out in the middle of nature.
Yeah.
And when you are out in the middle of nature, you may not have a PetSmart nearby.
Exactly.
So you may be driving a couple hours, depending on where you are.
Yeah. So another tip: keep your dog's records, have copies of them in paper form in your rig. You're going to need the rabies paper form records for quite a few states just to even camp there. But it also means that you have their records. So if you are going to a vet who's never met them before, you at least have like their history with you. So that's another good tip, because it may happen on a day that they can't get to your vet and get faxes and blah. Like, it's just, there's ways to do it, but it's just easier to have it with you. So I think that was plenty on pets, though I'm sure you guys have more questions. So if you have more questions on pets and travel, please leave them in the comments below.
Puppies.
Or just questions in general for a future Tuesday Talk. We're always looking for new ideas. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, we'd appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up. Share it. If you ever see a question asked on Facebook or anywhere else about RVing with pets, maybe you found this helpful, share it. We also have a playlist. I'll make sure to link to that, full of everything whenever we've talked about our pets and traveling, we put it into this playlist. I'll link to that as well. Maybe you want to check all those out and see what we've said in the past.
That was genius. Well done.
Subscribe if you haven't already to see our pets in action as we travel. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
We don't usually encourage people to share.
We should do it whenever it's something like that makes sense.
Like all the Tuesday